All right, great. Well, Hafade, we are representatives of Gi Matan Guma, which is a collective of friends and relatives who are endeavoring to find the path of Inafa Malik by enlivening the spiritual and ceremonial lifeways of our people. My name is Dakota Camacho, and I'm Tautau Mombong Tom Holmes and Haganya. I come from the Tse and Eging clans, and I was born and raised in the lands of the Swinomish, Shwada, Snohomish, Muckleshoot, Suquamish, and Duwamish peoples.
Hafa Day. My name is Alethea Bordallo, and I'm Tautau Barragata, born and raised in Guahan, and I'm from Familian Kotla, or Kotla and Paris.
Habane, Guahusi, Sahi Velasco, Tautau Chalampagu, Zan Haganya Heights. I was actually born in a military base on Japan, but both my parents are born and raised in Wuhan. And I also am a visitor and a guest on Coast Salish, Duwamish territory in Seattle. Oh, and my family names and clans are Kådi, Zenkan. I come from Unkinko and Manabusan, Tenori and Kitchitu.
And hello, half a day. Guahusi Rowdy. Tautel Zotnya, Familian Dogi. Currently living in Duwamish territory right now, but raised in Guahan until I was 18. And then, yeah, hoping to come back soon.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the organization, the group, how it got its start.
Beautiful. Well, I think it was 2019 that Jeremy Cepeda, Sidafuntun Jeremy Cepeda, who's now passed away, and we started this organization because we had a mutual concern about the oldest and most endangered form of our language, Pinohuadza, and also the worldview and the philosophies and the teachings that are embedded within the language and the practices of our ancestors. And as people who are creatives ourselves, we know that as Chamorros, we really can only do things in community. And so we wanted to bring a group of people together to explore how to be creative and to do that in a way that draws from that ancestral teaching and creates continuity from our ancestors at the beginning of time to now. And through Gi Matan Guma, we've had a number of different projects, including a chant group, which Alethea is a really big part of at home in Guahan. And we have others that you'll meet shortly and others that aren't here with us right now that are part of that group, as well as different creative projects, one of which is Mali'i, which our team here is a big part of. And Mali'i is what we call a creative research project. So it is research in that we are trying to understand how do we create Chamorro knowledge in a way that is aligned with our ancestral worldview. And we do that by making and experimenting and reflecting and exchanging what we know from our intuition, what we know from what our elders have shared with us from our own experiences, and then on the reflection of that. And so Mali'i is a kind of exploring Kantan Tamarita, which we understand their old name for Kantan Tamarita is Mali'i, and that means to have been seen. And we look at the different technologies of the practice. So technologies meaning the call and response part of it, the fact that it happens when communities gather, the fact that it's about perspective being shared and then twisted and changed. And so we have truth that grows as more people share their perspectives. And also the teasing and the flirting and the sharing of oral history and also the receiving of new messages for the people. And so that's the story of Gi Matan Guma and Mali'i. Is there anything else that y'all want to add about Mali'i? How it started and where we're at?
Yeah, when it began, we were doing a lot of work virtually. And I think there was a gift in that to be able to be together with folks back home in Wuhan, folks on Turtle Island, and to be able to connect in that way. And so when we finally in 2022 were able to be together back home in Guahan, it's been 17 years since I've been back, and I got to bring my son. I think a lot of our practices, and I like to think of Mali'i and our project as an act of remembering in a creative way of remembering who we are and who we come from. And I feel like, living in the mainland for so many years of my life, that mahaling, that longing for home, became such good medicine to be connected and to grow in relationship to each other, and to remember that home is always calling us back. And Jeremy would always say this to us whenever we'd be like, oh, I'm not calling for home. And he'd be like, like our islands miss you too. And so I really think of Mali'i as a calling for us to bring our gifts and for us to be connected and to build relationship in a good way with each other. Yeah, an act of remembering.
Roldy, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah. I think a part of this process is I'm still trying to see myself in this. I think a lot of Lily is to, yes, see community, but also like, as what Sai was saying, we have gifts to offer, but also like, yeah, how do we cultivate our own gifts and know that they are good and great and that our ancestors want them and that they want to see us thriving and creating deeper connections with each other. And I think through Mali'i, I've learned that I can express myself in many different ways. I can dance a little bit, we can use our bodies as stories. And I think it's still a discovery. And I'm really excited for everyone who gets to be curious with us. Because I think that's a part of, for me, Amelie, is just curiosity. What can Chamorros be? Past, present, future, at the same time, differently. Each of our Chamorros is different, but how do we weave a guafak together that makes us all sit and belong, right? No matter where we're at, no matter how much we want to get in the middle of the guafak, but we can still be in the end, observing, right? But it's the invitation also. I think Mali is an invitation to like give yourself to something greater than, I guess, yourself. So yeah. Anything?
Yeah, so I really feel the power in the chanting together, moving together. Definitely the bridging of our people across lands. Starting during COVID at a time when that was where you could easily feel people felt isolated, but I felt like it really was the medicine coming out of that time. The medicine that I needed to be in community with others and to not feel isolated and to share our individual stories and get to know each other and what it means to be Chamorro today. Yeah.
That's awesome. So now tell me a little bit about the programs. I know you've been traveling up and down the West Coast. There is a program right now. It's a Chamorro immersion camp at UCLA. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll start by sharing with you about we have a 3-week tour that we're on right now. So
Oh.
we are in the middle of the second week, and we started in Wabanaki territory in what is momentarily known as Maine. And a handful of us completed a 32.5-mile paddle on the ancestral waters of the Wabanaki. Yeah, it was a really beautiful ceremony. We paddled freshwater and saltwater through waves and currents. We were on the open ocean as part of the paddle. And it was a beautiful way for us to connect as Indigenous peoples with the water as our teacher, with the canoe as our teacher, with our community as the teacher. And the people there spoke highly of us about, the similarities between our cultures. Part of what we've learned in our work together is that when we land in another people's land, whether that's us born and raised diaspora or coming for the first time or the second, third, or 25th, that it's good for us to honor the people of the land. And so we had the blessing to be able to present a few Wabanaki elders with gifts to wrap them in designs that our team had created and printed on fabrics to bring oils that we made back home, coconut oils that were blessed in ceremonies by Zo'anti from the 4 different islands that our people reside on, and that was prayed over by Zo'anti before we left. And these kinds of actions of honoring our protocols as Micronesians, but also the protocols of the native peoples whose land we're on, it really creates a kind of bond that is special and that we think is a part of this new story of justice that's emerging on planet Earth right now. So we started there. And then for the last few days, we've been in Muckleshoot, Duwamish, and Suquamish territory. And I'm going to pass the mic to somebody to talk a little bit about that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the last few days prior to coming here to Tonga land, in LA, in Seattle and Coast Salish territory, we were able to build ceremony, especially with Native folks from the lands that we are on and visitors to, as well as Black community and our many communities of color that exist in Seattle. And I think what's really special about Mali'i is that we're able to remember who and where we come from in relationality to others. And I think, as a parent myself, I really, really valued being able to be with children in the space and also to have elders. And we're really intentional about creating intergenerational spaces because that's reflective, right, of our ways of being. And in Afamalik, I really, really think about interdependence. And so the last 3 days, we were able to be in ceremony and we taught many of our neighbors and our relatives back in Coast Salish lands a lot of our lalai, a lot of our chants that Jeremy taught us to be able to teach others. And it was really, really beautiful to see people who may not come from our ancestry and lineage as Chamorro people, but we're so excited and eager to learn and to also see our work and the philosophy of our work and the value of our work, right? And in remembering and recalling and the importance of language and come together and be able to sing our lalai together. It was just really precious. So we were able to do that. And we did other activities as well. And I was wondering about if you want to talk more about the other activities outside of just chanting that we taught.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we did a couple of different things. Yahout is a 1.5 acre land bank space in South Seattle. And it's a collective of indigenous creators who wanted to bring people together, and we were able to bring some things. We did some tali making. I wasn't there. I was actually helping in the kitchen, just like our nanas do, making sure the table's ready. So once the rosary or party stuff, people just go and eat and leave. The flies around the food, but I think it's also part of that's the ceremony. Like Mali'i is, I think, what role do you see? What is, and how can we fit it? And how can we honor ourselves? And yeah, just roll with it because we're all exploring something together at different points. And so, but we also did printmaking. This is one of the prints that I'm wearing here. This is a
Very
pottery.
cool.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
We're doing pottery printing, and we're looking at ways to use the body as expression, as a way to look at Chamorro culture in deeper ways, right? And other ways that we can look at our land and see, and our medicine to, I guess, express something that cannot be seen, which is our spirit. So, yeah, and that's something that happened with me. But anyone else? Alethea, you want to share anything about the last few days?
Sure. So something I really valued from the last few days was just meeting people from the community, but also the Chamorros in the community or coming a distant ways. Maybe they, heard about us just through social media, but to actually meet them in person and to just sit and just let their stories come out, unfold just from the immediate connection you have when you're in person. And to hear about how they're connecting with their heritage, because you know, they may not know much about Guahan, you know, and their Chamorro roots. So they're seeking out the community. And I had an experience of that, and that was really beautiful.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, are you able to share exactly like what happened?
Like let's say, when we were doing the sound healing session, I was sitting down with a young Chamorro person who heard about us through social media and just shared that they may know like certain family names that they have in their ancestry, but they really don't know they don't know, you know, the actual people in the families unless, you know, they come out to Guahan. So like our group is sort of like an entry point towards that journey, you know? And there's so much more to his story, of course, but just what little he shared, and I also shared coming from, you know, a certain generation that grew up in Guahan. And I could tell that they were just taking in also like this history and storytelling that they may not have heard because, you know, it's just so fascinating to me, like what can unfold just from the presence with each other, you know, in that space. Yeah, there's so much more, but it's
Yeah,
just too much
that's
to
actually
really
what I was
share.
going to ask you. What's been
Yeah,
the
yeah,
reaction
yeah,
from the different generations that come to
yeah,
your, you know, to your events? You know, from the mononcle to maybe, you know, the younger folks who are just beginning their journey of self-identity.
yeah.
You know, how, you know, the older ones, right? They know who they are. They know they're grounded in Guam. The younger ones who maybe grew up away from the island, but still have, like you said, that connection and that calling. I see it all the time in the groups on Facebook, the comments, the pictures. They're saying, you know, the younger ones, you know, in their 20s, you know, early late teens, just say, you know, I wish I could go there. There's just this longing, right? The mahalang. You can hear the mahalang from somebody who's never set foot on the island. So what, you know, how have you what have you seen in that space and how have you responded to it?
Mm. Um, well, I guess, I mean, I don't know about you all, but I think that our parents can often look at what we're doing and be like, hmm, that's different. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
but what's been really beautiful, you know, about our work, both here, Lago and also at home, is that I think that the older generation is like sees something in what we're doing
Mhm.
and they hang out and they stay curious and they may not say anything, but they'll be there. Like my parents came to the activation that we did last year, and my dad just said, you know, and you know the Zonti that I mentioned earlier, you know, they see the value in what we're doing too, right? They come from the older generation, and of course, you know, they bless the work and see the beauty in it. So I think, and I don't know if you want to talk about your mom. You know, because we actually had the beautiful opportunity to bring Alethea's mom into one of the film projects that we did.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, okay, okay. Okay, so yeah, my mom, I can never duplicate that experience because it basically it was a short film that we did. Dakota and Futsum, a filmmaker, came to Guahan to tell our stories, portray our stories in these short films. And so my film, our film basically was on my family lands in Mighty and Haget, an area called Talifik. And it was just beautiful to bring in my mother because um she won't say much, like you said, she won't say much, but but she'll kind of cast you a little. So it comes out in the humor of like, you know, just being a part of it and kind of taking the direction of where to be. And the film was really about my connection to the land and to my mother because the land is definitely a place that mothered me and to go back to Guahan as an adult after living years away from home, I needed to reconnect to that. And to have my mother a part of it, I mean, I don't know if I'll ever get that chance again down the line. So I can't say other than, that to me, I valued it a lot. And I know she did too, because when she saw the film, she was definitely like, you could tell she was taken aback by it. She was taken in by, she was in awe of it actually. But people like her may not express it so much, but it might come out in some other conversation down the line where they reveal it. Yeah.
What to respond to? I think since I started Mali'i and just my own personal journey of being able to like deepen and believe in my own Chamorro-ness, I think, we have a lot of loved ones, especially back in Turtle Island, of not feeling Chamorro enough, maybe even if they were born in Guahan or maybe they haven't lived there, and like really wanting to find that sense of belonging. Even speaking to my mom herself, like growing up in Guahan, she's like, wow, you're learning a lot more about like our creation stories and our language that I didn't have the opportunity to learn. And I know that stems right from colonization, and she was part of the generations that were not encouraged to speak Chamorro, Hadza and Chamorro. And so a lot of my own mahaling I see and feel through my mother, right? And I think Mali'i has allowed me to feel not just compassion, but have more understanding of my parents' stories. And maybe the stories they haven't told us, maybe the stories that my grandparents, my nana and tatas haven't told me, and I think there's a lot of healing that we all get to experience, because it is very spiritual. And I know a lot of this revitalization work is so important to us, in the movement work that more people are doing in Lagos. But I know that on a personal level, and an intergenerational level, there's some deep, deep healing that we're accessing. And sometimes it's not easy, like sometimes a chant will like pull on a heartstring and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? Right. And sometimes it's not even our own grief. It's like related to the grief we come from. And so I think a lot of the things that we're doing have been really integral to my own healing. And I know for so many of us in Mali'i, and for me, the storytelling is such a big part of that. I think it helps us to also really challenge the silence that many of our families have around our stories due to trauma. But I think that Mali'i allows us to really center in our joy of what it means to be Chamorro and like what it means to move and love and care and like so many of us talk about belonging, but yeah, I think of all those things in relation to the ways that we are creating community and really wanting to invite people, no matter if you have like, like if you're Mamala or whatever, we're like, no, please, please come because you are not alone in that. And we are all reaching for each other. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you so much, you both, for speaking to the work of the intergenerational healing. And I think that all of us as Chamorros are dealing in some way or another with the impact of colonization, like at the personal level and also at the systemic level, right? That the reason why we're remembering is not our fault, right? That is a system of colonization that's been visiting us for hundreds of years. And we get to be the solutionaries, right? We get to do the healing in our family lines and in our family lineages in order to reverse and then to move forward to this new place. And that's why I think it's such a big deal that we get to be here in Tongva territory, working with Katurin Tomorrow Foundation, which has been doing that work for the past 30 years. So we want to give our big love to Heidi, Chargalaf Kenga, who has been a part of the Mali'i project, been a part of the Gi Matan Guma work, and was so moved by her experiences that we've been invited to teach her annual Tafan Apati camp here in Los Angeles, Tongva territory. And so the next 3 days, we get to be with these students, these 30 students from all over the country, and sharing with them the Gi Matan Guma philosophy and practice, and the unique way that each of the creatives and artists that are a part of this group look at Chamorro reclamation.
Wow. So with that program, then, so you're saying 30 students from around the country, so they don't have to be Chamorro?
They're all Chamorro.
Oh,
So
okay, they are.
yeah,
Okay.
the big difference between the program that we just came from and that we're going back to, and this is that this is focused on Chamorro students and Chamorro families.
Wow. Wow. And so where you said they're coming from around the country, like where are they coming from?
I think they're mostly from California, but I met one student today from Virginia and another one, I think, coming in from Texas. And then different parts, Northern, Southern California.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's so interesting because I come from Northern Virginia. My family lived there for 12 years before we moved to Honolulu. And so, you know, you keep the connections. And I know the Guam Society of America is very active there, but they're not really doing things. They'll do a liberation parade, but there's not an organization like you folks. There's not an organization like Couture and Chamorro. So that goes to that segues into what I was going to ask, like how can people get involved, other than coming to being chosen for this program or coming to the Mali'i that's happening into Washington? How can they make the connection with you folks and get involved?
Yeah, great question. First, I'm going to do a shout out for every program that we have coming up in the next week and a half. So the first is that come to the act. If you are in the California area and Southern California, and you can make it to Long Beach on Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m., you'll see the students activating the teachings and the creativity that we're facilitating this weekend. That is a fundraiser for the Couture Tomorrow Foundation, and it's a great way to get an insight into how we work and what can happen when we pass our culture on to the next generation. The second opportunity is if you are in the Coast Salish territories, if you're in Washington State, and you want to make your way to Seattle, we have 2 more days of workshops on Tuesday and Wednesday on August 19th and 20th. We're in the south end of Seattle. You can find all the information on our Instagram. Gi Matan Guma is our name, and we'll be there throughout the day. And then we have a big public activation down at the waterfront. And that's going to be a really big deal. And part of the beauty of that work in Washington is looking at how Chamorro culture can be a window into how we build equity and justice for all communities. We're really working with the story of the monstrous fish that try to eat Guahan, but we've been thinking about the monstrous fish also as eating the rest of the planet. And how do we weave a net with all peoples in order to, capture this fish of division, fear, and destruction, and build a planet really built on Inafamaluk. And then the last way to get involved with us is if you can come check us out at the Marianas Festival in Multnomah territory at Fairview, Oregon. We'll be doing an activation, we'll be tabling. And then if you're on the island, you can be in touch with us through our Instagram. We'll be having public programming rolling out this September. We just got some beautiful grant funding to support us in the development of curriculum and enhancing the work we've been doing around chant. And outside of that, I think it's follow our website. You can look at our chant app, which we have links from our website, and follow our social media. And you'll learn more about how to get involved with us.
Awesome. I know hopefully, you'll get a lot get a lot of people like going to your website from this. So you said you were going to give us a tour of that location?
Yeah. So does anyone want to talk about where we're at right now? Sure, I'll do it. So we're at Paleli Projects, which is a program that was started by Mickey Marquita Davis, who lives here right now. This beautiful artwork behind us is by Isa Gagarin, who's based in Minnesota, Makoche, in Minnesota state. And this is one example of what's possible when you have an art studio that focuses on Pacifica and Samoan art. And in just a second, we're gonna take you on a little Zoom tour of the rest of Mickey's space, but also introduce you to other members of our team.
Awesome.
They'll say hello. They're doing some making, and yeah, we're getting ready for the tour now. Thank you, flight director.